Yes, welcome back to Chosen, discovering the life of true parents and their impact on the world. Thank you so much for being with us. We are super glad you made it. Remember, Japanese and Spanish translation is available, simultaneous, in the comfort of your home, delivered right to you. The number will be posted in the chat. Thank you for all of you who are working hard to deliver in 2 more languages. During this 21 episode docuseries, we are exploring the lives of our true parents who are without a doubt still the most fearless couple of all time. If you've never heard of true parents before, don't worry, we've got your back. Stick with us and you'll find out. You know, yesterday we enjoyed a fascinating account of true parents' work to overcome the evil influence of communism that was spreading throughout the world. At the height of the Cold War, when America was still confused internally about the real threat posed by atheistic communism, and while the Soviet Union was strategically positioning its influence to put a chokehold on American influence in the world, true parents orchestrated an incredible symphony of solutions to solve the core problem. On the one hand, true parents were desperate to save the American youth. When it was becoming increasingly popular to protest against our own government and country, true parents were sacrificing everything to raise up and educate enough young Americans to wake up to the reality of the day and America's providential role in the world. On the other hand, true parents were secretly sending the butterfly missionaries underground, deep behind the Iron Curtain. They risked their lives to prepare the environment for True Father to later send our media and fact-finding teams to Moscow to build relations. This isn't just soft diplomacy. This is multi-layered, multi-track diplomacy on both physical and spiritual levels. True Father not only intimately understood the geopolitical framework at play, he also understood the spiritual forces at work. And so he simultaneously worked on all these levels while being falsely accused, while being persecuted, while being unjustly thrown into an American prison, while losing members of his own family. And even now, we may overlook the fact that he was doing all of this while protecting God's only begotten daughter, our true mother, taking all the hits himself. For whose sake? For your sake, for my sake, for our sake, for God's sake. Incredible. Now, to those of you watching, don't worry if you missed yesterday's episode or any episode so far. We've got you covered. You can sign up for lifetime access to all of this incredible material. Just click the link below. And now, I hope you're excited. It's time for another incredible adventure, another incredible journey. Let's get ready for our featured story.
Damien, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, live.
True parents not only have to answer the call of the will of God, but there is a heavenly timetable, a timetable. This is very, very unique. Just as the flood judgment in the time of Noah, and Moses fasting on the mountain to receive the 10 commandments, Jesus fasting in the desert and then suffering on the cross for 3 hours. Restoration operates on a principled schedule. With regard to this single issue of atheistic communism, years and years of investment occurred to create the foundation for true parents to meet and be received by Mikhail Gorbachev. Father informed members that this meeting had to occur before True Father could meet with Kim Il-sung. The meeting in Moscow with Gorbachev quickly set in motion a series of events that made it possible for true parents to meet President Kim Il-sung in Pyongyang, North Korea. According to the schedule of heaven, the time had come for the 2 enemy brothers, Kim Il-sung and True Father, representing Cain and Abel, to meet and to heal the past. True parents went to meet with Kim Il-sung, representing the elder brother who had tried to kill him. Imagine that. Had tried to kill him at least once before. True Father knew this. And so he knew that this meeting had to be more than just a statesman meeting or some kind of cold official handshake. he knew that it had to be something more. Heaven was longing for these two brothers to embrace with the genuine love and affection true restoration. Father and mother went to North Korea, seeking their long-lost brother even at the risk of their lives, taking with them to the North only their sincerity and open hearts. Moments ago, we met again with Antonio Betancourt, who shared a little bit more about this incredible historical story. Today's feature is titled Going Home to the North. I know you're going to enjoy this one.
Well, it all started in Moscow with Larry and Tomiko and myself and Dr. Bill Selig and all the staff that created this miracle of the March on Moscow, when True Father was able to march into the Kremlin with 40 world leaders from countries around the world. And this was the miracle that we produced with AULA, with the Summit Council for World Peace and the World Media Association. And more than, I think 600 or more journalists landed in Moscow for this incredible conference.
What do you expect from this conference? Reverend Moon feels very good, uplifted, and a new era would be dawning after this conference.
그 미디어 대한대 연설을 순전히 하나에 대한 얘기부터 그런 의미에서 얘기합니다.
Reverend Moon feels the Soviet Union is now undergoing a new thinking era. That new thinking must be crystallized in new value system. You cannot remain in vacuum. You have to fill with the correct value system. Reverend Moon strongly feels that value system is a God-centered value system. That is the reason Reverend Moon, in this particular opening address, even though not directly connected to the media and the communication, he emphasized God-centered value system under which Soviet Union, government down, all the people will adhere, then this country will prosper great deal upon that new thinking. And particularly, this is the only way that can prevent the degradation of the second generation or young people, because we have to guide young people in a proper direction, and this new value system alone can give them a purpose of life. By doing so, we can lead the second generation of Russian youth.
So this success, True Father wanted to expand to China and to North Korea. So he asked me, since I used to do a lot of traveling during the mission for True Parents, True Father asked me that if there was an embassy on any country I visit, an embassy of the DPRK, to please visit them and tell them that the Unification Church and Reverend and Mrs. Moon are no longer in a state of war with you. They want to help to heal the relationships for the sake of Korean unification. And True Father asked me to write a letter to Kim Il-sung, and I wrote that letter, and it's on file. We can send it to you. That letter got to Kim Il-sung, and so I visit many embassies, and in China, when they learned that I was a member of the Unification Church and representing Father Moon, I was basically escorted out of the meeting, the staff meeting. And it was because they were spooked. Anything that had to do with the church was very, very scary for lower ranks of the leadership in diplomacy and also in the political or the Korean DPRK Communist Party, Workers' Party it's called. So they were very scared. So True Father asked me to do that and to request a visa for me to go there. And I attempt to do this with the UN Embassy of North Korea, and I attempt with several embassies with no result. And finally, I was talking to President Carazo from Costa Rica, who was the chairman of the Summit Council for World Peace. And I complained to him the problems I had in conveying these messages from True Parents to the North Korean leadership. And in the letter, I stated that the movement was no longer in a dialectical relationship with them, that we really wanted to help them to join the community of nations, reconcile with the Sound, and bring Korean unification. But there was many blocks in different levels. So Dr. Carazo says, "Don't worry, I can get you, I can get you a visa." And you cannot believe, and the audience of this episode are not going to believe what I'm going to say, that the way for true parents to go to North Korea in this initial stage, in this genesis, was Castro from Cuba. Dr. Carazo had performed some very good deeds for Castro and for Cuba. So Castro told him, "Don't worry, I get you a visa for you and Mr. Betancourt." So they sent a message directly to Kim Jong-il and Kim Il-sung that we needed to go in, and this was in the interest of North Korea and in the interest of Korean unification. And sure enough, within a week, we had a visa in the embassy of Nicaragua that at that time was in the hands of the Sandinistas. And we went there for the visa, Dr. Carazo and I, and that was the beginning of that relationship. Now the question is, what did we want to accomplish? We were acting in a very practical way. True Father was aware that the dialogue between the U.S. and North Korea was meaningless because it was at a very low level. So True Father instructed us, me and Dr. Carazo, to try to bring the North Koreans and the Americans to a higher level of discussions, higher level of meetings, so they could deal with their interests on both sides. And there was it was already the problem with the nuclear weapons program, that it was also already in the genesis. They had no nuclear weapons yet, because we're talking about 1990. So we went there, and what we did was we organized an international, made by the Summit Council, an international committee for Korean reunification. And we did this in consultation with Pyongyang, with the leadership there, with President Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il. And they were very surprised that for the first time, they told us that for the first time, they found people who wanted to formulate things in consultation with them, because many people were creating formulas and creating all kinds of projects without talking to them. And we told them that this was part of Reverend Moon's strategy, that we have to discuss with them. So we had a conference in Washington with several former heads of state, and the chairman of that conference was Admiral Crowe, who became the U.S. ambassador to the Court of St. James in the UK, in the United Kingdom. And he had great credibility with Clinton. And that was the beginning of this kind of dialogue, elevating the dialogue at the State Department and also with the Foreign Ministry in Pyongyang between the two countries. And this was extremely positive. Of course, the South Koreans did not like this, because they, in high-level politics in South Korea, any gain of anybody that is not the ones in power there, they consider it a zero-sum game. In other words, the gains of Reverend Moon, they never saw that as contributing to the South Korean interest, but they opposed that. But anyway, we continue, and this war continued until December. This was in 1991 that I visited for the first time the country, and I kept visiting, and 5 times I met with Kim Il-sung, and Dr. Carazo also visit with me, and I was exposed to severe mistreatment by them, because I was a Colombian and also an American. So I had the black label, the bad history from both sides. Colombia fought in the Korean War, and they had these grievances against Colombia, and in addition they have these enormous grievances against America and grievances against Reverend Moon and the Unification Church. So this was a very complicated diplomacy, very complicated mission. But thanks to Dr. Carazo and thanks to True Parents' direction, that told me that you have to give them the dignity and the respect that you may think they don't deserve. If you do that, you will gain their trust. You have to respect them. You have to honor them. And that's what I did. So I did not engage in debates with them who's right and who's wrong. I just listened for 3 days of insults against me and against true parents, against my movement, against everything. And once they emptied out their hearts, they were ready. They were ready to talk. And then I told them, I repeated again that the movement was not anymore in an antagonistic relationship with them, that they were seeking to help them to join the community of nations, opening the United States, knowing that without the US support, North Korea could never join the community of nations, nor the institutions, international institutions, especially financial institutions that they needed to restore or restructure the economy. So in 1991, in December, true parents were able to come to North Korea with a permission and invitation directly by Kim Il-sung. This upset enormously South Korea because it was done in secret. True parents knew that if South Korea knew this, or anybody else, even the US knew this, that they will block it somehow. But they were there with 8 people.
해동포원의 윤위원장 도신입니다.
환영합니다. 반갑습니다.
종문 김다른
환영합니다. 진심으로 환영합니다.
해동포원
박보희 선생님,
윤위원장 도신입니다.
이렇게 참 뵙게 돼서 영광입니다. 아주 잘 뵙습니다. 감사합니다. 예.
자, 윤기바 선생님.
So basically, true parents were able to embrace Kim Il-sung and Kim Il-sung's wife because she showed up for the meetings, also because his true father went with true mother, something unusual among Korean politicians or Korean politics. It was an amazing breakthrough, and true father and true mother were able to go to their places of hometowns, to their birthplaces, and to their amazement, those places were restored before they arrived. So Kim Il-sung did really extend the red carpet to receive true parents there.
Father was born in this room, right here, 1920, born right here. I was sitting where exactly that baby was born. Father sitting, mother sitting, and we had a prayer. The 2 onlookers, 2 pictures. One is Kim Il-sung, the other is Kim Jong-il, looking down our prayer. Actually, they said, in the end of the prayer, they said all, Amen.
That was the beginning of a new relationship between North Korea, the US, South Korea, Japan, and even Russia and China, because we already make inroads in China with Dr. Park. But all of this was the brainchild of Dr. Park and the true parents. True parents always spoke the truth and always acted with love and truth, and love and care. And they really wanted to take care of North Korea and help them. The problem was that the US was not ready for the big dream and the big vision that True Father had and True Parents had, nor South Korea. They just, the elite of South Korea wanted to do these things by controlling them. In other words, that the elite of South Korea will control the process. And true parents were acting not out of self-interest, economic or financial, as the South Korean elite is. They were acting on behalf of God and on behalf of humanity, the humanity of the North Koreans and the South Koreans. True parents felt that enough was enough. The suffering was too much. The division of families was too much to bear. And True Father felt that he was getting old, and Kim Il-sung was getting old. And I believe that True Father knew somehow that Kim Il-sung's health was not very good. And so he needed to do this reconciliation and put the U.S. and North Korea and South Korea in a new plane, a new realm, and fulfill at least that. And that's what they did. So when Kim Il-sung died, he left this legacy of friendship with our movement that is still until today. Kim Jong-un just invited True Mother, I think a year ago, to visit North Korea. And when the conditions are right, I think she's going to go representing the legacy of True Father and the entire unification movement. Because Korea is connected with humanity providentially. So this was the motivation. We were never motivated by material things or political things. But the politics were there, both in the U.S., in Japan, and South Korea. And they did whatever they could to interfere and twist things. But what they could never destroy was the goodwill that was built between our true parents and the regime. And if we get the help from South Korea and we get the help from the U.S., we could help to solve. True Mother could help to solve the problems. What they need is a mother's love. And True Mother is ready to give the love that she is extending to humanity, to extend this love to North Korea. But also she is aware of the difficulties that are presented by other people who have other interests, and they are very powerful in South Korea and in the U.S. It is amazing, and the advice that I got from True Father personally in how to deal with them gave me the trust of Kim Il-sung. Kim Il-sung called me son, something he will never do to anybody. So, I mean, I felt, and Dr. Park felt, that we were in safe waters to push for the resolution of the division of the Korean Peninsula. We were calling for a peace treaty between the U.S. and North Korea, and with the participation of South Korea and China and even Russia, to have a peace treaty to replace the armistice, because the armistice is basically is what it is. It's just to stop the fight, but it's not a peace. So what we needed was a peace treaty between the U.S. and the warring powers, the people who fought the war. We could never achieve, and until today, that has not been achieved. And I tell you, it's not because of North Koreans don't want to do that. The thing is, the North Koreans have a very peculiar logic and political logic and political tradition and way to do things, and they push you to prove yourself whether you're sincere with them, and people don't pass the test. True Father didn't go there to endorse Kim Il-sung or to praise him and rub his shoulders. No, the meeting did not happen immediately because Kim Il-sung wanted to know what he's up to, what her and Mrs. Moon are up to. So they drill both of them. They invite them for meetings in which they will express why they came and what was their interest and so forth and so forth. And with the elite under Kim Il-sung. And in that meeting, True Father just laid out, Juche will never make it. The society that you're looking for will never make it. Nobody ever challenge that concept, that mindset among the North Koreans. Anybody who did this among the North Koreans end up losing their jobs and in a concentration camps and possibly losing their lives. So True Father, True Parents were there at the risk of their lives. And this was the whole world was concerned about this. Members of the True Family who didn't know that True Parents were going there. Some members of the True Family didn't know. They were very upset because of the dangers in going there and knowing True Father. That True Father doesn't carry water in his mouth. He just talks. He allowed God to express. So basically, without intent of insulting them, he did, because he told them. And Kim Il Sung, of course, was listening, because they have circuits of listening devices for him to listen to these top VIPs that visit the nation. And this was one of the biggest fish Kim Il Sung could dream of meeting with. This was this leader who has this global foundation in more than 100, and at that time in 1991, it was more than 160 countries. So it was huge, huge foundation. So he was listening to this. So when True Father actually met with Kim Il Sung, he had already made the conditions of what True Father called the providence to start, in which he would slap. True Father used to say that he had to slap Satan in the face in order to, challenge for the resolution to actually take place. Because the resolutions that True Father and True Parents are looking for is not a resolution of cosmetics, hiding your true intentions or your true beliefs. No, True Father expressed his idea that without God, without Godism, without unificationism, without these ideas that were revealed by heaven in North Korea will never be what they wanted to be. So when Kim Il Sung met with True Father, he already knew that this guy was not an easy pickle to chew from. He was not an easy bone. But it was love at first sight, because for the first time Kim Il Sung met his counterpart on the side of God. And they had such a wonderful discussions. And True Father was able to tell him, look, we have to forget about ideologies. We have to forget about all these things and focus on the blood of the Korean people and the future of the Korean people. So Kim Il Sung knew that this man, who was an adversary in terms of ideology, in terms of belief systems and faith, was not harmful to the regime or harmful to him or to his family. And Kim Jong-il thought the same, that despite the rhetoric, what they consider rhetoric against the regime, we meant well for them, and that we really meant to do whatever we could to help them with the relationship with the US, which we did.
There's one picture represented all. One picture tells all the story. This man trying to kill father at least 3 known times. One time his government tortured in Pyongyang father to death. The members, like Reverend Kim On-pil, picked up the body of the father for the funeral. Miraculously, father survived. This man trying to kill father in Hungnam prison was living in the literal killing chamber, slow killing chamber. No prisoners escaped that particular place more than 6 months. There, father survived 2 years and 8 months. Only by the grace of God, by the forces of General Douglas MacArthur, of UN forces, father is given the liberation. And third time, this man in 1987 sent out about 2 squads of Red Army, headed by a Japanese man named Kikumura, sent an incredible explosive to blow up father's morning garden in Boston. And that was nick of time discovered and captured by FBI. However, what father said, forgive, love, unite. I have absolutely amazed how the true love works. Father, really, I forgive you, I love you as my brother, and I unite with you.
The greatest victory is the victory of heart. What True Father preached throughout throughout his life, to be able to forgive Kim Il-sung, to be able to redeem this man and the regime, is huge. That's big. That is a huge victory for heaven that he took with him. Nobody can take it away. And Dr. Park and I were honored, more than honored. Dr. Park, Mrs. Park, who were there with True Parents, and Peter Kim, and the brother of Mrs. Park, he brought this victory. This is a great victory, the victory of heart, because he didn't go there by political means. He didn't win them by money, by none of those things. He won them by heart. And whatever aid he provided for them, because there was food and things provided for them. When they had a famine, I am the one. I was the first to blow the whistle of the famine in North Korea. I went to talk to people at the UN. I talked to people in Strasbourg, in Europe, that the necessity to feed 23 million North Koreans, we could not allow food to become a weapon of politics or international discord. And food was provided, and True Father provided money for that, and Japan provided money for that, and the Summit Council delivered the money to the UN food program for North Korea. And this is thanks to Japan, who was very supportive of our activities in North Korea, the rapprochement and the peace activities with North Korea.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Antonio, for sharing those stories. Thank you for making such incredible history together with our true parents and dedicated brothers and sisters. It's incredible how God can even work on all sides to bring about his will. These things can only be possible because of God's love and guidance. You know, the most amazing moment of this feature that struck me was this clip of Colonel Park reliving this moment where he, together with True Father and True Mother,
okay, we're good, guys.
True Father's birth home, in the room where Father was born, on the patch of floorboards exactly where Father was born in 1920, the 70 years earlier. They're there in prayer, and I'm thinking, wow, that's amazing. And then he mentions that both Kim Il-sung and his son Kim Jong-il watching overhead. It's like some restorational moment, some biblical image, some Michelangelo painting, you know. And they all concluded together with Amen. What must have been going through Father's mind in that moment? Totally incredible. Look, guys, thank you for your patience today. And for those that are with us live, God bless you, and chat away. Give your love to the team and to Antonio, and, you know, to the guests that are coming on the show. We're going to go deeper, even deeper into this story. So share with us what inspires you and what grabs you, and show your love to our contributors so that we know what's on your mind. And wasting no more time on this, we want to dive right in. So let us get ready to welcome two very special guests. Welcome to the show. Today we have Dr. William Seelig, who joined in 1975, blessed in 1982, currently the Communications Director for Universal Peace Federation International. And a familiar face, if you were with us yesterday, Dr. Thomas Ward, who is currently serving as the President of the Unification Theological Seminary. Thank you so much. Dr. Ward also, by the way, blessed in 1982. It seems like a famous year to get married among many of our members. So thank you for both being with us today. Great to see you. Bill, yesterday we heard from Larry Moffat that Father had a very specific timeline he was working with. Can you share with us your perspective on the connection between the march to Moscow and True Father going into North Korea?
Thank you. It's really wonderful to listen to Antonio and to watch these videos. It's a real, I feel like a time traveler. Well, the end of the 80s were very hot times. There was a lot going on. The Berlin Wall, Solidarity, CAUSA programs. It was an exciting time. True Father had talked about the end of the Soviet Empire. So we knew something was going on, even though we weren't so spiritually as tuned as True Father. But in Dr. Pak's book, The Messiah, and I definitely recommend to all of our members, especially our second gen, to take a look at this. He details many of the backstories, because he always played a very central role. And in particular, and I didn't know this until around 2000 when I was helping him put together the book. He tells the story at the end of the Moscow event when True Father pulls Dr. Pak aside and says, I must get to North Korea before the end of next year. It's imperative and time is short. And Dr. Pak elaborates in his book, he says to the effect that Father understood that if the Soviet Union, or when the Soviet Union does dissolve, this could cause tremendous chaos, and it could trigger even a world war. It was that sensitive in the peninsula, and so True Father felt he had to go to North Korea and to console the hearts of the people there. So he wasn't going just as some ordinary person. He had a mission from God, and it had to be according to that timetable. So as Father had said, the meeting between Gorbachev and he was the world reconciliation between Jacob and Esau. He also saw the meeting between he and Kim Il-sung as the cosmic reconciliation of Jacob and Esau. So, I mean, we have to kind of stand back and look through history to really appreciate the significance of the timeline that is happening, that was unfolding at that very moment.
Yeah, we can see, I think many people now more aware than before how much, and we're only hearing some of the stories I know, but how much preparation internally, externally, spiritually, physically, diplomatically, how much was invested into this moment occurring. And right up until that time, a lot of work was still going in to arrange their entry into North Korea, trips back and fro to Beijing. And you were with them in Hong Kong at the time they finally received the official invitation to enter North Korea. And you were actually there as they departed for the airport. Could you tell us what that moment was like?
Sure. Well, there was a lot of time going on between all these different meetings that were taking place in Beijing, and they were secret, as someone had said earlier, because we didn't want the South Koreans to know about it. But finally, around the end of November, we got the call to go to Hong Kong, Paul Topkin and myself. We went there to begin the preparations, and we stayed there very briefly and then into Beijing. And it was in Beijing that the leaders started to come from the US, from Korea, Japan, all of our church leaders, about 30 of them, all with the hope and the expectation that we would accompany the true parents into North Korea. So it was a very exciting time for all these top level people there to be part of this. And then the true parents came, and then finally, I think it was November 30th, that we actually got the invitation from North Korea. And the invitation said, no, it's only going to be the small delegation of true parents, Dr. and Mrs. Pak, Peter Kim, Wanju McDivitt, and Mr. Yoon, the person who's taking care of True Father, and also Thomas Wang. Thomas Wang and Kathy were the missionaries in China. So that was the delegation that was going to go to North Korea.
Did they send a plane? I mean, how did it happen?
That's exactly it. We went to the Beijing airport. We spent a number of hours there. It was a very exciting time to be with true parents. There was photographs and gifts and people coming in and out. We were all sharing in the spirit. I mean, this is what it was all about. This is the
Yeah.
divine principle. The
Yeah.
final enemy is the reconciliation between the North and the South. So I think about 3 o'clock, the charter flight was there, and it was a humbler airport at that time. So we actually were able to walk out to the airplane, and they got on the plane.
So they're flying off. Now, this is a time when, I mean, were you able to maintain communication with the delegation once they left, or?
No, 0-0. This was ancient. I'm almost embarrassed.
I mean, certainly we can imagine there's no cell phones at this point, right?
Absolutely. In 1990, 1991, the internet was still just a concept. So there was no emails. It was very impossible to make phone calls. So we had no communication with them. They just got onto this plane as if they were going to the moon. We had no communication.
Hoping that they would come back successfully. I mean, you had no idea what to expect might happen. So what happened after this? You're at the airport, they fly off. It's sort of an exciting mixture of excitement and fear, perhaps, like not knowing. So what do you do next? You went back to the hotel, or?
Fear, it's true. There was absolutely a fear that maybe people didn't want to say it, but was this a trick?
Right.
Is this a way to steal the true parents, to do harm to them, and to promise something and then do something terrible? So honestly speaking, I mean, I personally was really scared. We all went back to the hotels. I don't think people were in such a happy mood per se. I mean, we were joyful, but we were also very worried. And then the following morning, December the 1st, is when Thomas Wang came back from North Korea, and he had the rolls of film. He had a bunch of Kodak rolls of film. That's how old we're talking about.
This was Instagram. This was Instagram back in 1990, 91. You had to fly on a chartered jet with a roll of film. It wasn't microfilm though, right? It was a regular film.
It's a regular Kodak film, 35 millimeter.
So he was allowed to take photos and then bring them back to develop. So that was the first glimpse you could have of what had happened that side of the flight.
That's right. The Segayobo and Sakai Nipo people had built set up a dark room in the closet of the hotel, and they developed the rolls right there. And then they had some kind of radio transmission device that they could send these pictures out. And then that day, the Segayobo had big bold headlines: Reverend Moon goes to Pyongyang.
Wow.
And it was astonishing. I mean, people just got blown away. How could this anti-communist go to the home of communism?
Thank you. Thank you for getting the story out there so quickly. We saw from the video that True Father also visited his hometown on that trip. Many people are familiar with certain clips of that video. But there was this intimate moment that Colonel Park mentioned about the prayer, right, and Father's birthplace. But they also prayed at his parents' gravesite. Could you share, from what you know of that, could you share a little bit about that moment?
Well, the video that was shown was so beautiful. But from what I understand, and Dr. Park sharing, of course, they were taken there by helicopters, 2 helicopters. They were brought to the village, Jeonju village, and then driven to the house. And they went inside, and the first thing Father did was let's pray. And it was a strong prayer for determination and forgiveness and just joy that he could be there, joy that the house could be there even. And he looked around, and he reminisced about the different rooms. Oh, this is where I used to play. And the kitchen was always outdoors. So there was a small door between the kitchen outdoor and inside. And he said, when I was a boy, I used to crawl through that. So and then of course he said, oh, it looks much smaller. Anyway, it was a moment where he felt his roots and a lot of feelings. It must have come back to him, going to his boyhood home. A lot of memories must have come back. And when he went outside and he looked around and he said, oh, this is where I played with my brothers and sisters, and this is where our farm was, and over there is where I prayed. And then they walked over to the grave, the family memorial, and Dr. Pak said that he started stroking the marker, the gravestone, and speaking after praying, and he started speaking softly, mother, mother, I'm back, and you're in the spiritual world now, but you know, now you understand what happened. Now you understand why I had to do what I had to do, and how difficult it was for me, but I had to take that position, even if I might have appeared disrespectful to you. But this, now you understand, now that you're in the spiritual world. So there was a lot of tears,
Sure.
a lot of emotion.
Was his father, you know, we know a little from his autobiography and times that he shared, I'm sure, not the full depth of his feeling, but, you know, he had so wanted to, I mean, his heart to liberate God's heart of suffering. Surely he had the same desire for his own parents, his mother, who invested everything, right? And he would have so longed to be able to comfort them, and only being able to stroke the turf over the memorial. It must have been an incredibly poignant moment, and yet also an incredible victory. Such an amazing victory. And anyway, Dr. Seelig, thank you so much for being a part of it and supporting that, and your investment in this incredible victory of true parents, and
Yes.
sharing with us a little bit today. I need to go to you now, Dr. Ward. I know you also had the opportunity to support the Providence, the North Korea visit Providence. And in May of 1992, you went with the American Freedom Coalition to Pyongyang. This was with a group of former US officials as well, to meet with Kim Il-sung. Could you tell us a little bit about that trip?
Yes, let me say, I guess I realize as I'm listening to your conversation with Dr. Sedgwick that really True Father is so many things, but he was also the consummate diplomat. And if you think about, we had this opportunity to travel in May of 1992 to North Korea, but that was on the foundation, first of all, of True Parents having visited Korea and having really met and reconciled with Kim Il-sung, and also was on the foundation of a special interview with the Washington Times and Kim Il-sung, where he was able to speak frankly for the first time. So we came there in May of 1992, and the specific focus of that meeting was we came with a letter. The head of our delegation was Congressman Richard Eichert, a letter from George Bush. And the purpose of that meeting, the idea was to reduce the amount of abusive language that was coming from North Korea to the United States. We were always Yankee imperialists, and vice versa also towards the United States. Maybe we weren't as respectful as we should have been, likewise towards Kim Il-sung, if we wanted to change that situation. So that was the focus. And we had remarkable experiences. We had a chance to sit together with Kim Il-sung at his private banquet table, 60 seats around a round table. And he shared and spoke with us for, I don't know, several hours. And the objective, as I said, was this idea of being able to reduce abusive language. There were a lot of bumps in the road, which I can't go into detail here, but it didn't quite happen in the way that we hoped. Right. And it seemed like we were going to go away empty-handed. And as we were getting on the plane at the tarmac, as we were getting on the plane, preparing to go back to Beijing, suddenly Congressman Eichert, because he was concerned, he turned to me and he said, Tom, the mission isn't finished. You have to stay here and you have to work out this letter that we need to do. Someone has to stay back.
As you say it, Dr. Ward, I imagine he's already like halfway up the steps to the plane and you're there on the bottom step with your bags and he's saying, wait, but might not have looked exactly like that, but that's the picture I'm painting in my mind. So you had to stay in North Korea when everyone else is leaving.
That's great.
And then this was also an opportunity for you then to, I can't imagine what was going through your mind, but you had again an opportunity to meet with the foreign minister representative and a unique exchange with him before a meal. I remember you saying something. Can you share with us about that?
Yes, I mean, it was, anyways, I had a chance to stay there for an extra week and to try to work on this statement. And I had asked for two things when I came. I thought I should ask for something. I said, first of all, I'd like to be able to visit with Reverend Moon's family while I'm here. And secondly, I asked if I would be able to have a personal meeting with Kim Jong-sun, who is actually functioned kind of, he was responsible for the reunification of Korea. That was his mission. He was also the deputy secretary of the Korean Workers' Party. He was a major player, if you will. And so anyway, I had this opportunity to have lunch with him. And I think perhaps inspired by the story that we just heard about True Parents' beautiful prayer, I came in and he said to me, he said, "You're a religious person. And so I imagine that before you sit down to have a meal, you probably pray. Is that true?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And then he said to me, "Well, would you mind to pray for us here?" And Kim Jong-sun, he spoke French, I speak French. I said, and he didn't speak English so well, and I didn't speak Korean so well. So what I said to him is, "You speak French, and I speak French, so let me pray in French." So anyways, I offered the prayer in French. And at the conclusion of the prayer, someone asked in Korean, I understood at least that, "How was it?" And he said, "Child, it was good." He was happy with the prayer. So it was very nice.
You could live that. You could live another day.
I could live another day.
I didn't know I'd hear so many stories about prayer in North Korea today. Notwithstanding, I mean, thank you. What an incredible, we got to make a movie. You know, each one of these episodes each one of these episodes, guys, is like the pilot for a whole series on this topic. And I know there's so much more. But anyway, Dr. Ward, you end up coming back to the US. You may have felt like it wasn't the most successful trip, but as we know, God works constantly behind the scenes. Can you tell us something very special happened that we weren't expecting? Can you tell us what happened shortly after meeting with the North Korean ambassador?
Yes. On June 23rd, I returned from North Korea on June 6, 1992. They gave me assurances we're going to do something aligned with the aspirations of the White House. And so on June 23rd, I received a phone call from the North Korean ambassador to the United Nations. And he said, "Is it possible for you and for me and for Congressman Eichord to meet tomorrow for lunch in New York?" And I contacted Congressman Eichord, and the three of us met for lunch. And he said to us there, he explained, he said, "President Kim Il-sung is so grateful to Reverend Moon. You arranged for this very open and wonderful interview with the Washington Times. Reverend Moon and Mrs. Moon came and they honored us and they met us here. And then they sent a very high level delegation. The delegation, which I was a part of, included congressmen, senators. It included Ambassador Douglas MacArthur II. It included a very high level diplomacy. He said, you sent to us a very high level group of former government officials from the United States. And we are so grateful for all those things that President Kim, he wants to do something to honor Reverend Moon." And he said, every year since the end of the Korean War, from June 25th until July 27th, we have in North Korea Hate America Month every year because of the things that the United States did to us. But I asked you to come here today because I want you to know that for the first time ever this year, because of what Reverend Moon did, we are going to suspend Anti-America Month. And then he said, normally this news is supposed to go through Ambassador James Lilly, who was the US ambassador to China at that time. But I'm telling you, Congressman Eichord, because I want you to report it to President Bush so that Reverend Moon gets the credit for this incredible work. And that is precisely what happened.
Amazing. Amazing. And that's how it went down.
It was amazing. Yeah.
We got to make a movie. We start with a documentary, docuseries, and then we'll make a movie. You know, these are amazing stories. I realize not many people know how instrumental True Parents have been in developing the relationships with North Korea. You know, we see from these stories that true parents were, among many, many other things, also they were the most amazing diplomats of all time, weren't they?
Absolutely. That's the point, because this was track to diplomacy. It opened the door, and through that also there began to be an interchange with the United States and North Korea. And people like Antonio Betancourt, Dr. Ju, Dr. Pak, they became important resources to kind of mentor the United States Department of State in terms of building the relationships with North Korea. Now, let me mention one other thing. This has continued all along. We know that even at the time of True Father's passing, he received a medal from Kim Jong-un, recognizing the fact that True Father had been a hero for reunification. And we know also that he sent gifts to True Mother, these beautiful dogs that now guard Chung Jong-un. He did those things because he wants to preserve that relationship. And Father set the pattern. When Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump met in Singapore a couple of years back, it was a successful meeting. And what did Kim Jong-un do as a response to that? For a second time, he declared that he was going to suspend Hate America Month. Right. So True Parents set the pattern, and it kind of it's a reference point, if you will.
Yeah.
And going forward at this stage, we know that things are very cloudy. It's very, very clear that to take the next step up in terms of U.S. North Korean relations, True Mother's needed. So once True Mother and Kim Jong-un meet, I'm very confident that at that point, something's going to happen that's going to be able to open the door to the next step of relations.
I would like to just add a point also. Thank you, Dr. Ward. That word pattern comes to mind, that how Gorbachev and Father and Kim Il-sung, how they related, and how True Father related to them. That has been the model that we have inherited for our movement. And that's how the Universal Peace Federation is operating. This notion of forgive and love and unite and negotiate and to embrace one another. This has to be the way. And True Father said over and over, war cannot be an option. We have to find ways to live together as brothers and sisters. So I'm so grateful for True Parents. We have peace because of them.
It's incredible. They've been able to set a path that no military could do or government could do. And we're so grateful to both of you coming on the show, Dr. Ward, Dr. Seelig, for your storytelling, but also for making the history with True Parents. So come on, guys, show some love in the chat room. Show some love for these incredible doctors, these titans of history that we have with us to tell these stories. With that, I'd like to really thank you again. Please stay safe, and we'll see you on the next program.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right, now to wrap up this show, let's go some of those comments that you've been giving us from our live studio audience. What is on your mind? Well, there's just so many comments to choose from, but we've got 2 or 3 here that we think you'll like. This first one is from Daniela. Thank you. I want to study more about this. I am amazed by the efforts of True Parents. I paraphrased because there's 2. I realized how going to North Korea was not just done in a moment. It was a real work behind, really unimaginable spiritual and practical work, like True Mother going to Africa. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Daniela. And from Joel, what touched me the most was how Father was able to truly love his enemy, Kim Il-sung. Reaching out for that handshake. Yeah, you see how he's reaching out. You can see from Kim Il-sung's reaction, there must be a big beaming smile on Father's face, right? He's walking fast. Kim Il-sung could have just been standing, just a cold handshake. Father was coming, charging down that hallway. Risking life and limb with a big heart of love and a big smiley face that our True Father had. I'm sure that's the scene from the other side. Father had no hesitation to go in for the hug. The only way to destroy an enemy is to love them and make them your friend. True Parents are the example that we need today. Thank you, Joel. And from Shogo, True Parents are really amazing. They bridge this historical resentment that runs so deep. They show us the example of what we need to practice now in this time. They've walked the path. Do you like all my miming this? Is it helpful? You know, so they've walked the path to overcome incredible resentment in their own lives, much more than any of us. I'm sorry, but this is true, more than anybody. We need to become like our true parents. True parents are the answer. Thank you, Shogo. With that, we're going to go to the village square. What is everybody raving about? Yes, you've got it. They're still raving about the Mother of Peace. Not because it's a book, not because it's a book about somebody. If you don't understand what this is, then I understand that maybe some of you don't understand, but let me explain. This is God's work. God's work. On these pages, this ink represents really the entire 6,000 history of God's heart coming to fruition. You know, there's these famous flowers that only bloom every 200 years or something like that. I forget the name. If there's any botanists among, please type away a flower or two that has this kind of strange life cycle of only blooming once every century or something like that. Well, this is a flower that took 6,000 years to bloom. So what's that worth? I'm telling you, in here is the answer, not only to where have we been coming from, but where we need to go. Also, if you would like to write a letter of love to our true parents, you can do so by going to chosenworkshops.com/love letters. Also, if you would like to know what I was saying at the beginning of the show, you can click the link below and the recording will be there. But don't worry, we're going to keep the restream up for you that missed the beginning. It was a pretty cool beginning. I thought it was a pretty good opener. I'm sorry you didn't hear it the first time. But again, for any episode that you've missed, you get the treasure box and it's all yours, plus a whole bag of goodies. Price is $47. It's a steal. Even $197 is a steal, but $197 will be the price come the last day of this 21 day. And for those of you that have an even bigger heart, that want to give this as a gift, that's what the gift card is for. You can get all of that at chosenworkshops.com. All of this is accessible. You find your way to Mother's book there. You can find your way to the gift card, etc., etc. So what, pray tell, are we going to talk about tomorrow? Well, it's got something to do with America, for all of you that love America. And it's got something to do with Christianity, for all of you lovers of God and God's providence and Jesus Christ and Christianity, uniquely in America. We're going to be hearing again tomorrow from Dr. Kim and Dr. Kim at his best. We're going to dive into part 1 of Christianity in America. You're going to want to see this. You're going to really want to see this. You know, I want to just say again, thank you on behalf of Dr. Kim, the team, and the contributors for being here. It wouldn't be the same without you. In fact, we wouldn't bother doing it without you. It takes two to have, give, and take. And we hope that this can be meaningful to you no matter where you are on your journey each day, bringing you closer to true parents. And if you're having anything of a good experience at all, then yeah, consider giving the package as a gift. Also, sending the link, the sign up, it's not too late. You can send the sign up link to any of your brothers and sisters, children, friends across the world. We got people all over the world tuning in. We're really grateful to everybody coming in. And I just want to conclude with a simple note to say this. When we think of this incredible history, we see especially that True Mother was there all along. I know that True Mother must have been such an incredible comfort to True Father. Don't you think so? You saw her in the video meeting Mikhail Gorbachev. You saw her there at the table with Father meeting Kim Il-sung. You know, all along, True Father was protecting her. And yet at the same time, I know she brought great counsel to Father and supported him and comforted him. But I think that even more intriguing is that True Mother all along must have been God's most secret weapon. Isn't it true, after all, that Had we been able to protect Eve way back then in the garden, had we been able to see true parents rise up right in the beginning, then we would not have fought amongst ourselves as brothers until now. Now is an incredible time because it's where we have True Mother with us. And it is True Mother's love which the world needs now. So thank you, Father, and thank you, Mother. And thank you especially, Mother, for still being with us to guide us through these times. Thank you all for watching. We're going to see you right here, same place, same time tomorrow. In the meantime, please stay safe. Please reach out to love one another, because all God is waiting to do through you is love your brother, love your sister, your father, your mother, God's family. Until tomorrow, stay safe, stay in God's love. Thank you for watching, and God bless you.